Good morning. I'm Cheryl Wilkerson, and it's time for On the Line. Maynard Scales and myself host the Hot 91 Morning Show weekday mornings from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. It's right here at Hot 91. Recently, we spoke with Delegate Jackie Glass from the 89th District. Here's some of that conversation.
It's now time for On the Line with Cheryl Wilkerson. The conversation will range from local dialogue to international. This show is meant to enlighten, inform, and to inspire. On the Line with Cheryl Wilkerson begins now.
Delegate Jackie Glass is a delegate from a city of Norfolk area, right? And she's a state delegate. You live right here in Norfolk, in Ballington Place.
Yep, right up the street.
Right up the street. So you are... not in the ivory tower. You're right here, a person among the people. Yeah. Thank you for showing up and being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So Cheryl, I was looking on the Facebook a couple of days back, and I realized on the Facebook that the delegate was having a town hall coming up this Thursday.
Yeah, this Thursday, the 28th at 5:30 at Freemason Church. What we trying to do is, I do these every single month, whether it's virtual or in person. We got a fairly large district, over 80,000 people. So, just providing opportunities to let people know what they can hold me accountable for and then hear them out at the same time. And,
what kinds of things do people typically, what are the typical, hey, I'm trying to figure out why this or why that?
The biggest, I think, state level concern I get is with employment benefits. Employment benefits, and I get a lot of letters from incarcerated folks. So those are probably the two biggest things that I deal with. Outside of that, it is a lot of directing traffic, right? Getting people they come to me with something. I'm like, all right, you need to call this person in the city, right? Sort of empowering with information to know what my role is versus what the local government does versus what the state level does as well.
Understood. So the incarcerated folks.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
I'm curious about that because here's the problem. You're incarcerated. Yeah. Theoretically speaking, to a lot of people, you're unrepresented. You're no longer even a citizen. We took your right to vote away. We make you check the box. Our society throws away our incarcerated people.
Yeah.
Do they matter to you?
Yeah, they have to. Some of them are my constituents, right? Okay. I'd get letters from, because I'm prior military, I've gotten several letters from incarcerated veterans, but most times they're asking about, telling us about their conditions and, or, asking for help with, their conviction, and unfortunately, there is a mindset of some people that they're all guilty, and that's not necessarily the case. But we have some resources that we point them to get the process running if they feel like they need support with their conviction. When it comes to conditions, I'll call DOC, Department of Corrections, or when families call and say, hey, I haven't heard from my loved one in a minute, or I'm trying to figure out where they transported them. We can make that call and just bridge that gap of information and get out of the middle, right? Sort of make the initial call, give them the number where they can keep checking up and get out of the middle. Yeah.
So let's set this up real quick so we make sure that people understand. So Delegate Jackie Glass is right here in Norfolk. There is a district number or
89.
The 89th district that she represents. That covers, as she said, 80,000 folks, which, let me explain, that's pretty much a third of the city of Norfolk.
Yeah. So we've got the whole downtown area all the way down here to, the Broad Creek, the NSU, all the way down to the south side. We've got the whole Berkeley, Compostela area as well. So that's the area that we're charged with here, with representing.
And so if you live in any of these areas, or if you live in the city of Norfolk, if you live in all of Hampton Roads, I'm certain that while she may not be your delegate based on your address, she's still your delegate based on the fact that she stands for the people.
Yeah, I was in Wawa one day while I was in session up in Richmond, and I was just looking around me, and I'm like, we're making decisions that affect everybody up in here.
Everybody.
And it was just like a moment of you go to Norfolk and we spend 85% of our time down here in district. And that's what I think is a myth, is that I'm always in Richmond. I'm in Richmond for a finite amount of time.
Right.
45 to 60 days straight at at one point, coming home on the weekends. But the decisions that we make impact 8 million Virginians in some way, shape, or form. And that's kind of heavy because I'm weird. I was a former cryptologist, so I'm a numbers person, but like only 0.02% of Virginians are legislators, right? Get the opportunity to bring laws forth and things like that. So like you can't take lightly the step of getting here, but like the duty and responsibility that we have in it for 8 million people. It's
now, Jackie, you come from a long and rich political family. Your father must have been governor somewhere.
Mother in the Senate.
Or are you just a regular person who saw something and did something?
Not yet. No. So I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, and I'm gonna be really frank. Is when I joined the military right after high school, and when I was in the Navy, people always told me, don't go to Norfolk. Don't go. Do they need a reason why? Do you know what I mean? No, what I mean by that is that people get these perception of spaces and places, and it gets perpetuated, right? Like people and my husband was here in the early 90s and was like, yo, this is the place to be for some of the stuff that you want to do. And I don't know what he meant by the stuff I wanted to do. I guess it's like always being, I was told my whole life I talk too much and I don't know how to mind my own business, and that's all I do now. So like I think that's what he meant. That's what he meant. So if you told you talk too much, it may come in handy. But he fell in love with Norfolk in 96 and said this is where he wanted to be and probably where I needed to be. And like most cases, he was right. And so,
whoa, say that again about your husband. He was what?
He was right. I don't mind saying it.
All right,
ladies. Like in most
cases, most times.
Ladies, hear what she said.
Listen, but I also expect that to be reciprocated.
Okay.
When I'm right? Like. Let the record state. No, we're just everyday folk. I'm like I said, originally from the Chicagoland area. My husband's from the Connecticut area. We've got 2 little citizens, a Maury high schooler and a soon-to-be middle schooler, and it's just trying to live. I'm making gas decisions too.
Right.
That's and be representative.
So something brought you to service. So obviously you chose to serve in the Navy.
Yeah.
But when you got out, man, you could have been
a
defense contractor real easy. You could have done any of these things where you can get all the money in the world and you don't have to continue to serve people or listen to people's problems.
You got misconceptions of veterans, man. We're trying to get right with the way they treat them. But no, man. It may be the not minding your own business part and also being sort of this stick to it of like, something ain't right. Then I say like, okay, is it not right? Let's find out what it says it's supposed to be. And if it is a way that is discriminatory, because we all know like discrimination is it gets bad when it's not profitable, like then you got to do something about it. And so like, it's been a journey of like, just not minding my own business or just trying to do what I feel is better. And it's important to know like there's an ego in there that has to be checked when you think you always have the answers. Do you know what I'm saying? So like it is a process of like checking that thing in me that's like, I know. The kid waving their hand in the classroom while listening to the needs of other folk. But but we don't expect anything that we don't inspect. And I think that's what has allowed me to be successful is I have this expectation of things. But when I'm asking for them, we go back in and check. And that's one of the most dangerous things I think we can do is educate our elected to the point where they don't expect anything that they aren't willing to inspect.
And so you have these young citizens that as you said, but you do so many things for your constituents. I mean, you got the open house that you do live Facebook. I mean, how do you juggle all of this? You're teaching people how to make laws. How do you juggle all of this?
I have a phenomenal support system. I believe that village is a verb, and I think the folks around me believe that too, right? It's in action. It's a thing that we do, and I'm really, really fortunate to have some people that love me enough to help me find that balance. Like I'm not on social media a lot because I got 3 friends that are like, hey, Jack, we'll take a week apiece and do your social media. When it comes to my, my little citizens, my husband's an air traffic controller. So he's working a week of nights, a week of days, a week of nights, a week of days. Yeah. I got folks that are like, hey, if you need me to show up to that game early, I'll show up and be there, and then you get there when you can, you know, like, and then also my little citizens, my 15 and my 11-year-old, grant me so much grace because there is a lot of guilt in pursuing the things that you want to do while trying to be responsible for the upbringing of another person. But I think I've told them, and I feel very strongly about this, and again, this was a new revelation, that I would be doing a disservice to them if I didn't show them, because they're going to do more of what I do than what I say.
Well, while you're feeling the little bit of guilt, they are feeling the immense proud. You know, this is my mother. I am so proud. Yeah. This is what she's teaching us.
Yeah.
So what is the main thing that citizens are saying now? And do you see more and more citizens out here getting involved than you thought?
Yeah. So the main thing right now is quality of life, money. That's not even funny. We are having conversations about what it costs to live and be, and how to be in Norfolk specifically, but also across the United States. And that's real. I have a bill account, right? Me and my husband, every month we put the same amount of money. Well, he put more than me right now, but we put this, we have our share, right? Our fair share bill account. For the past 3 months, we've had to top that bill account up. Now, we're fortunate enough where it's not a thing to top it up, but we've had to top it up upwards to $350, $400. What does that say? So I think just as I'm feeling it from a middle class privileged place, got the time to be running for office, like, people are feeling that. And so I think that's the realest thing. My friends with college kids are feeling it. They're like, yo, it costs more. Like, it's real. But I think that people are getting more engaged, and it's several things. I try to do this with intent, right? I think I show up as myself, and I've had, a gentleman say, like, man, when you walked in this room and you had your sneakers on and them colors, I was like, is she a delegate? I'm going to pay attention more. Okay, if that's the thing to get you to pay attention more, great. But also, when I speak, I try to make sure that it comes from, be myself when I speak. And if I use African-American vernacular, I use it. The point is still salient and valid, right? That you don't have to have this level of perfection to be participatory, and that there is space. And I'll say that space is being granted because my son's generation is like, I don't care. Show up. I don't care what you're wearing or what you like, and do the right thing. And there hasn't necessarily been that space for people to do that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that has been a crucial piece. It's been a very hard piece. I'll be honest. My first couple weeks in General Assembly were difficult because of how I showed up. But I think it has invited people into a space that they belong in the first place.
So you heard the negative, but you embraced the positive that you got.
Well, yeah. I said that if they're going to talk about, listen, if folks are going to make sure that I know that my hair is too nappy and that my sneakers make me look unintelligent, then they'll find something, right? They're gonna find something. Right. Yeah. And so it was a negotiation with myself of like, do I continue to walk this hard path of not being taken seriously by a faction of people, right? Like, I'm sure it's a small number of people, or do I be comfortable and do this job well in my own skin? And there was really only one choice to make, because I recognize I only got here because of the way I showed up to these people down here, and that would be disingenuous to switch it up.
Well, let me tell you a little bit. You said, you are in the 89th, correct?
Yes.
And so you are aware that previously a long-serving delegate was Yvonne Miller.
Yeah.
Who was a graduate from Norfolk State as well as a professor here, and one of my professors once I was in school. But I produced a television show with her, or where we interviewed her, and she shared how she came to the House, as you kind of talk about how you show up as your natural self.
Yeah.
And at the time, there had not been any black women who had been elected to the House of Delegates. And they were treated like the maids. They were mistaken for maids. They were spoken to as they were maids, and she showed up as her natural black self, as the black excellence that she represented. And And I hear a lot of that. And I don't even know if you knew these stories about her, but I hear that in what you're saying. And it's so transcendent. It comes from one generation to the next. Yeah. And that, one of the things that you kind of mentioned before was you started your path on seeking policy, better, seeking changes when you were in the military, when you were talking about how we police black and brown bodies in different ways. And one important way is how we police black women's hair. Tell me about that.
Yes. And as I'm listening, that goes back to the very reason, that the first piece of policy that I was able to be a part of was, in the military, these standards that they had for us were unrealistic. And on an 8 or 9 month deployment, the hair of a sister can go through some bridge. Okay. The ship stow, which is the little store that they got. They got Pop-Tarts, but they definitely ain't got no grease, they ain't got no moisturizer. So just the standards that they had was unreal. When I got off of, sea duty, and I was an instructor, I was galvanizing the younger girls that were coming in. Every time I was in a field that you didn't see a lot of women. You definitely didn't see a lot of black folks in. But when they did come in, I would say, I need you to write this letter. Give them this template, and we're writing to the Office of Uniform and Military Standards. You need you to say, this, it's bias. All of it's bias. We couldn't have micro braids. We could only wear prison cornrows if we wanted our hair braided. It was just looking at where we are now. It seems really wild, but it takes a push and a pull. But transitioning now to being in the house, and what Miss Miller went through is I feel like the ghosts are in the room. Do you know what I mean? When you're in there and you're looking at the pictures of these white dudes on the wall, and then you're looking around the way the room is set up, the ghost of those black folks that were not seen but are in the room. On the top of that, the children are in the room. All right, there's a program that the state runs called the PAGE program, pages.
Yes.
And we've got a bunch of 8th graders that come up and during the school year, and they are working, they get paid, they still go to school, and they're in the room when we're having these conversations, when we're doing what we do all the time. So it's a holding of the hands of what we're showing them, to be, to do, and how to be respectful, or whatever that is that we're showing them. We're giving them a glimpse into the thing. So I just am very cognizant of who I am in that room, because the kids are watching, and I believe the ghosts are watching. And I think I survived this last session with those young people. I think they knew the way the other adults were behaving, and specifically towards me. And when I would turn the corner to come into the house, there's this little vestibule where they're sitting waiting to get their assignments, where they're going to be working in the house. And I would cut the corner, and they would go, glass, 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 glass.
I love that. I love that. And that just puffed your chest up, and you were like, you could conquer anything that day, right?
Big energy.
I ain't mad at it.
Yep.
So
kept me moving.
You're from Chicagoland, and you join the Navy, and after the Navy, you decide to run for school board, and you decide to run for delegate, and now you're serving people.
Yes.
And certainly, gas prices are an issue, and inflation is an issue. But some of these things. We can pull this lever and make these things work, right? We see gas prices are coming down significantly here in the past handful of 10, 15 days. But there are some things that are not, I guess, as transactional. For instance, not a mile from here, not a mile from your front door, there's a school called Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington is, a black high school. It had been the high school for black children, and we want to see Booker T. Washington be the most successful high school, but we have challenges there. In all schools in Virginia, I'm just using Booker T as a variable. Not a mile from your front door, there's issues where people have been hit over the head and robbed, or drugs, or whatever the case may be. These are not just transactional issues. These are issues that exist, and they have not something we can just push one button to make it go away. How are we going to lead schools into a new direction and fight crime, and also find ways that we can have police have good interactions with the community? And that certainly is the city and the state and counties. In certain areas we don't have county, and even the federal government. What's your role in these things?
So my role, and I think it's twofold, because as an office, when the day we got elected, the team and I, we said we need to be principled. Like, what do we stand on? What are our things? We said we're here to educate, we're here to advocate, we're here to celebrate, and now legislate. And I know that I can't do that last piece well without doing the first three really amazing. So there is an educational piece on how we get things done. And that's been real, of just getting people to know who is responsible for what, right? Just saying that when you have an incident in the school, or when there's an issue that you have with the school, there is a school board. Know that there are people that don't know that there is a school board. And unfortunately, the system that we have set up is our school board, for funds to make things happen, are beholden to a city council. Right. And between those two things, right, that's our local government. And that's what we see and what we feel every single day. And my role in that ecosystem is, one, making the laws, right, over that, with how the local governments behave, because we're a dealing rule state, which means whatever the state says or whatever the Commonwealth says is what needs to happen down on the local level. So understand that we're making decisions that's going to guide what happens at the local level. It is a process, I think, of getting folks to understand where they can go and advocate. Because if you're coming to me and saying, I got a problem with the school, you've prolonged your process of getting closer to a solution, right? And so my role is to bridge that gap, to know, like, we eliminate the middleman at every junction. But you know what makes it easier to solve a problem?
I don't know.
Money.
Oh.
Just being honest.
Okay.
Money and human capital. Right,
Braxton, go ahead and cash app her.
My cash app is empty.
So what I mean by that is going to the state. So we worked really hard this last session. My whole like platform for next session is pretty much public safety. But our city needs money, and we got a $1 million carve out to work on crime. That still ain't enough. Grateful for it, right? Like, I'll take my pennies and my quarters to do the work that I need to do, but I understand that we are in a place where politics has a constant cycle of funding opportunities and not solutions. And that's real, to include my office, right? Like, it's an opportunity, but I know I need to hire 2 more people to be really operational and solution oriented. So my role is twofold. It's an educate piece on who the right person is, right? If that street light is out, I need you to download the My Norfolk app and go ahead and put it in there. You ain't even got to call nobody. You ain't got to do nothing. If you got to call, like, that sort of thing. If you got an issue within the community, like what's going on up the street, like that is also a phone call. Unfortunately, we done lost all of our community resource officers. We're down to like 1 per sector at this point.
Why? Because of money?
We got over 260 vacancies or so. But that's not just a Norfolk problem.
That's a problem in every police department.
Yeah, here's what we've done as a country, right? We when I first got back from session in March, that weekend, my son was like, "Hey, Mom, there were 12 fights in my school in one day." I was like, "What? What?" Then that same weekend, we had the shooting where the young reporter passed.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this is about people choosing violence as a means to solve problems, to mitigate conflict, right? Whatever that looks like. Indiscriminate shooting, fights in schools, people are using violence to solve problems. Who are we asking to stand in the middle of that? Who are we asking to mitigate it? We're asking educators, and we're asking the police, right? And we're also politicizing them and paying them less and asking them to do more. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's like a whole ecosystem where we don't have the money to do the things that we don't want to do, but we also have people in the power that are afraid of, and I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about everyday people, afraid of them being the solution, because that cracks at that individual person or entity's power.
But this is what I don't understand.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the state of Virginia have like a $3 billion surplus or something like that? So why does the state of Virginia have that money sitting there when we have schools that are crumbling, we have infrastructure that's crumbling? We have a surplus. Is some law there that we can't use it?
Here's what's important with that, Cheryl, is that the gravity of our vote. I think people think we're voting for a person, right? Mm-hmm. When actually you're trying to vote for a group. Because right now, being in the minority, some of the bills and some of the ways we want to spend the money, it ain't even being heard. Because who gets to determine what comes to our floor, what comes to our committees, and just for, again, educational purposes, that how we budget, right? There's a whole committee that deals with the money, and you are absolutely right. We had an unprecedented surplus, which we will not have. Right. And we're also operating off of some imaginary money, right? The casino monies, some of them are being built, some of them. So we've got the imaginary money that should be coming in once those things are built, plus the surplus. But when we put in amendments for things that we need, let's say like, hey, we want to put an amendment because we've had a witness protection program in the Commonwealth since 1994, but never funded it. Right. And what happens in communities when they can't be protected for telling on the problem? They just allow the problem to, you know what I mean? So like these things to persist, and they say, nah, no, it's not going in the budget. That same thing happens with the things you're talking about. It happens with schools. Now they'll say we did have an unprecedented amount of money funded for schools, but again, that's with imaginary money, right? So you are right, but the majority rules. And so there were some amazing laws that could have been enacted that were not, because the leadership says no. So it is en masse. So, but I do want to say this, is that is a collective responsibilities on both sides, because everybody has had the opportunity to be in power.
That's true.
So what we're saying is that politics often is a numbers game, in that, you know, when we vote for one person one time, and then we get disappointed at them that they didn't get this done, we also sometimes have to look back on ourselves as the electorate and say, did I vote the next time? Did I do the things necessary to give? You know, I look at it now. I'll take it at the federal government level. Yeah, we send the president to the White House, and he's supposed to go and build, but we don't send him hammers and nails. And a
Congress or a Senate that is able to. So what happens?
Girl,
it's not
say that twice. Say that twice.
But that's true. So if we're just talking about at the state level, what's happening is that we have races in other parts of the Commonwealth that are super important to us being able to do good work. So it may not necessarily be the race that I'm going to be in right in the next year, because this city tends to vote pretty consistently Democratic, and we know that we share the values of the things that we're talking about, the things you were talking about, Cheryl, right? We share these values. Okay. But when it comes to these other places, there are other races that are super tight, that if that person doesn't get that seat, and we're at right now I think we're at a 48-52 or something like that, 48-52 vote on everything. 52 is going to win all the time. And just to put it into perspective, is that sometimes we don't even get to hear good stuff. We don't even get to vote on it on the floor, because it doesn't even come to the floor.
But I reject that when it comes to things such as schools. We know that our students, we have students all across the state. We know they all deserve decent schools. They need to have the equipment, the infrastructure. We know this.
Yep, we do.
So we just ignore it because we've won a race, and now we call ourselves a delegate, and we just don't want to because my child's going to private school and I'm okay?
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's in ignoring. I think it is the allocation of the resources. For Norfolk Public Schools, the city is putting more in than the state government on the schools, right? I think the city has 33% this year, so they're relying on us to get them the monies. But here's the deeper problem, is that the issues that you're specifically talking about, the deprivation of resources, opportunities, and you said it, Maynard, just like the quality school building, right? I don't want a school that got roaches. Right. Is that I mean, that's real.
That's real.
but it's so deep. Right? The issues are so deep, meaning they need more than just $2 or $3 or $10 or $80 million. Like they need a whole to really be a part of a fix. We fund opportunities and not necessarily solutions. And I think it is going. And if I'm looking at it from a game of this is about resources and getting our kids, because that directly impacts us. Remember, like the reason why I got engaged was schools. That's where it started. It was like, this is not right, y'all. This ain't even cool. Is that it's going to take public-private partnerships. Like, to be quite honest, when we have, and I'm just going to use this name, like when we have like the Centeras of the world, we have the Colonists of the world, we have these entities that are in our backyard that have a vested interest in the health, because I consider education a piece of health. Then I think there needs to be a buy-in into helping the city in which you are allowed to call home build, because the city is never going to have enough money. The state is never going to give enough money. That is going to be a constant. We don't have the tax base to do it. And to be quite honest, in a city like Norfolk that's over 97% developed, meaning like we don't really have new places to build things out to get more revenue to be able to put more towards school, which is why like this casino money, they're saying, hey, we're going to send it towards schools. Like anytime we get new revenue, we're sending it towards schools. It's really important that our partners be participatory in those health outcomes, and education is one of those pieces. It's weird.
And so the trick is you have to become engaged, everyone. You have to become engaged. This city and the health of the city, the health of the state, the health of your children, and the place that we're going to leave them is contingent upon what you are going to do tomorrow to help Delegate Glass win. Let us share with everyone how they can reach your office. They wanted to send you an email or whatever. Yeah. How do they do this?
So you can email me at Del, that's DEL, short for Delegate, J for Jackie, Glass, like a glass of milk, at house.virginia, spelled all the way out, .gov. So that's Del J Glass at house.virginia.gov. And then you can call our office at 757-472-1293.
Delegate Glass, your time here today with us has been very important, impactful, enlightening, and so I thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can we thank all the women that have kept this city together, kept this country together during COVID? Like that's where I give grateful and thankfulness to, is that women have really held it down.
Mothers. Let me again mention just for a second, Dr. Yvonne Miller and Mary Christian.
Oh my goodness!
These are the women who you may not know these names very well or know who, but these are the women who were the leaders, 30 years ago, who have made and blazed the path 30, 40, 50 years. Yeah. Have blazed the path for you to show up here with black excellence as you are. And I salute you, and I honor you. You have my support.
Gratitude. I appreciate it. Hope to earn it every day.
Yo, Cheryl.
Great information this morning.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was just checking.
Great information.
I was just checking. All right, Braxton.
Yeah.
Let's keep it moving, my dude. We are Hot 91. We are the soul of VA.
I want to thank Delegate Jackie Glass for joining Maynard Scales and myself on the Hot Morning Show. You can check us out weekday morning, 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. I'm Cheryl Wilkerson, and this has been On the Line. Enjoy the rest of your day, and join me again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.